Greetings, film freaks. We are the Podcorn Kernels. Join us as we discuss the hard and often indigestible truths that are at the center of the fluffy and delicious world of cinema.
What's poppin', people? Welcome to the Podcorn Kernels podcast. My name is Adam, and joining me in your earholes is Harry. Say hello, Harry.
I wonder what else Michael Jackson would have done to his face.
On today's episode, we will be talking about The Black Phone. This is a 2021 film directed by Scott Derrickson and stars Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, and Ethan Hawke. IMDb describes the synopsis as follows. After being abducted by a child killer and locked in a soundproof basement, a 13-year-old boy starts receiving calls on a disconnected phone from the killer's previous victims. Here is an original song to support the synopsis.
When you're out walking, don't you start talking to an odd man with a black fan. Isn't it strange? A man so deranged, free to abduct, he don't give a fuck. Grabber, grabber, stabber, stabber. Grabber, grabber, stabber, stabber. Parents are careless, victims are hairless. A girl in her dreams can't hear you scream. Pick up the phone, you're not alone. They'll guide you through, it's all up to you. It's all up to you. Grabber, grabber, stabber, stabber. Grabber, grabber, stabber, stabber. Grabber, grabber, stabber, stabber. Masks.
Let's start with some facts about the film. The grabber donned several creepy masks throughout the film, each exposing different portions of his face. They were designed by legendary prosthetic makeup artist Tom Savini. Mason Thames said that the first time he saw the mask, coupled with Ethan Hawke's bone-chilling performance, he was terrified.
I heard someone say as well that it looked like Lon Chaney's performance in London After Midnight, which is like some really old 1930s horror film. And I looked at the front cover and the face looks so similar.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it might have. I think this film's full of homage to older horror films.
Better horror films.
Much better. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like there's a point in... just because you're talking about the masks, like I even noticed really, really vividly in the film, Madeline McGraw's character has a yellow rain mac on and red boots in the rain. I'm like, that's Georgie from It. Like,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
I didn't clock that.
So, yeah, the mask, I thought the mask was hiding a disfigurement.
Yeah. I must admit, one of the best things about the film were the masks. In a film that I personally found to be quite tame in terms of scares, I thought the masks were pretty creepy. And I could see in Halloween's coming, people are going to have those sorts of masks. And the fact that within the film, parts of the mask, sometimes it's the upper half of the face, bottom half, and they all interchange. And I think that was quite, I wouldn't say scary, but a little bit intimidating, I guess, with the music and the backlighting and all that stuff. I can imagine from a child's perspective, it would be quite frightening.
I suppose he gets his kicks from scaring them, so the masks add to his modus operandi. That's what his enjoyment comes from, scaring kids. Because is it Finney?
Yeah,
the main protagonist in it, when he gets captured, he doesn't show fear straight away. He just stares at him, and I think that bothers Ethan Hawke's character, the grabber. And the masks don't tend to be doing the job that he intended them to.
Yeah,
he's not a scary character. I didn't find him scary.
No, and I feel like that's a problem with a film that's labelled as a horror. The scariest thing is the look of a mask. You can make any mask scary with the right music and stuff. Like, for context, the mask is a huge face, isn't it? And it's got horns, and then he's got different expressions on the lower parts of the lower half of the masks. Some are smiling, others are looking sad and more aggressive, others are missing a mouth completely. I did find the masks themselves interesting. And I, for one, would like a mask like that. Not to do anything dodgy with, but they just look cool and impressive.
I thought you were going to say you'd like one to reminisce on the Etruscan orgies of old.
Yes, that would be good. Yeah, I'd be down for that. Ethan Hawke had to be convinced to be in this film because he doesn't really play villains. He told director Scott Derrickson that the script would have to be great for him to sign on. Hawke called Derrickson almost immediately after reading the script, leaving him a voicemail in the voice of the grabber. Derrickson knew he had him hooked. Now, I don't blame Hawke for being sceptical about taking on the role. I think he does a relatively good job as the grabber, nothing too memorable. But I do admire him for taking on a different brand of character. That I would say that.
Yeah, but I find for an actor of his caliber and some of the films he has done, like how excellent he can be, I thought it was so lukewarm. I was just like, well, I see your face once properly.
Yeah.
And that's when you're in a Hobbit-sized hole getting smacked with a phone.
Yeah.
I was just like...
I do struggle to believe he read that script and was blown away by it. Because for me, the script felt quite weak. The dialogue, the characters were all pretty one-dimensional. And to hear that Hawke was impressed enough to be like, well, I don't normally play villains, but you know what, I'll do it for this film. I found that a bit odd. I think his physical performance in it was quite good. He was quite menacing in his movements and stuff like that, paired with the masks and the music and that. I think it was fairly effective. But the script, reading that script and thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna break trend and be a villain here, I found that quite odd.
I liked one little aspect of his character, and that would be where he leaves the door open and then he sits in his kitchen with his belly out, holding his belt, because he likes to punish the kids if they're naughty.
Yeah.
I thought it was so ridiculous. Look, one of the ghosts on the phone tells Finney that, oh, he's asleep, you can get past him now, and he's literally snoring.
Yeah.
He's like...
It's almost cartoon-like,
what
isn't
is
it?
this?
Yeah.
And there's literally a vending machine for 80s characters in this. You're just like... And then an 80s character falls out. The Karate Kid. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of that in this film, and I can tell already we share a similar view. Listen, whenever an actor goes against their casting type, I applaud it. I wish he would have been a little bit more fussy and chose a film where he could have really had fun with a really villainous sort of antagonist. But his character and the whole film, it's very mild.
Yeah, this is an artillery shell away from Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo.
God, yeah.
An artillery shell, that shit is gone.
Not even comparable, are they? No. Final fact, the script was written in 6 weeks. The film was shot in 33 days. Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
No, that sounds like a diss, because it is. The script took longer than the film process itself.
That's mad.
Which is crazy.
It is, because you'd think, does that speak volumes about the script being so simple? So you don't even see him kill a kid. You don't even see a brutal murder to shock you into thinking, God, this guy is sick. My personal opinion, it should have been a really disturbing, long opening 15 minutes with a kid being tracked and killed. And then you're invested in the protagonist's upcoming plight.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, because if you had like a montage of murder at the start, the audience are led to understand like the brutality of this serial killer. But without any of that context, it all feels very, very tame, very mild. It's all suggested. Within the film, the protagonist, Finney, speaks to past victims through a phone. And the only understanding you get of their torment is through them describing what happened to them and them helping Finney through his journey. So yeah, I think if it had started brutal and then sort of veered off, I think that would have been more impactful. I think we would have both felt like, oh, okay, well, fucking hell, he's a nasty bastard. Whereas really, you're just watching Ethan Hawke in Mask, suggesting that he might be quite nasty.
No explanation as to how he came to be that type of person, and also how he could be so careless as a killer.
Yeah, and I don't mind a film where there's little context, but I'd like to know some reasoning why he was the way he is. Like a little something, just like maybe just a flashback, or like you say, at the start of the film, maybe before they ventured down what he did to kids in the past, maybe you could have had him in an abusive relationship with his dad beating him or something like that. Some sort of context, some sort of structure to this serial killer would have made the film feel a lot fuller. You know,
just like the start of Red Dragon, where Harvey Keitel's character comes to see Ed Norton and he's fixing boats in Florida somewhere. That exposition's excellent, because he sits there and tells him about the families that have been killed and how they were killed.
Yeah.
And there was glasses put in their eyes and that, and it builds the villain.
Yeah. Well, it invests both the character and the audience into, right, okay, we need to catch this bastard sort of thing, doesn't it? Yeah.
And then you see this wicked insight into Ralph Fiennes' character and what makes him the villain. Yeah, it lost all of that. It didn't execute that well. To me, he's just a mystery, this guy, and still is.
Yeah. It's a thriller killer that certainly lacks substance, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah. What did you like about The Black Phone?
I liked how Jeremy Davis schooled his child on not slurping cereal.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no need for it. There is no excuse for this.
He slurped after he put it in his mouth. So he didn't go and it went in his mouth. He went...
He was making a performance of it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You don't need to slurp food.
I don't care if you're an alcoholic, abusive dad. If someone's slurping cereal, you have my blessing.
Yeah.
To do your thing.
Maybe don't beat them, but stern telling off, you don't need to slurp.
No, don't slurp.
There's no, don't.
So I liked that Jeremy Davis's character and whoever wrote this showed a little bit of probably their own personal dislikes at slurpy eaters.
Yeah, there are peoples, aren't they? We're not fans of slurpers.
Slurpees.
No, yeah.
Slurpees aren't our peoples.
They are not our peoples. Anything else you liked about the film?
I loved Finney's character playing with the Saturn V rocket, which is the one from the Apollo missions.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
And I think it's really nice because obviously he's living kind of a shit life at home. His dad's an alcoholic because his mum committed suicide, and he might even be an ex-war veteran, I think. I think he might have gone to...
It's suggestible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's suggestible because he's reading a newspaper about veterans not getting payouts or something. And obviously it's just after the Vietnam War. And I love that he's got the Saturn V rocket because that represented probably the greatest achievement of mankind, to land people on the moon. And while he's living a life of being bullied at school and his dad's an alcoholic, he's holding this Saturn V rocket constantly, and it's constantly appearing throughout the film. And even though it didn't become the tool he would eventually prevail with, which I thought was weird because they keep showing it. So it was like false foreshadowing or...
Well... Yeah,
incorrect.
In the context of the film, he's got the pen of said ship, doesn't he? That's got like a little torch on it, and he uses the torch. He stabs the grabber in the arm initially with it
at the start. Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. They made such a point of showing this pen, the fact that he had like quite a unique space rocket pen. Yeah. I thought, okay, so that's going to be prevalent later on in the film, but yeah, they kind of don't use it.
Didn't come to nothing.
No. So you like the fact that it was in the film as like a authentic timestamp?
Well, I thought it represented his desire to escape.
Oh, nice.
To get away from Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of large. If I was him, I'd just want to get away from the town.
Yeah.
But I think him looking at the moon and stuff, maybe it's aspiration as well, because he's quite a smart kid.
Yeah.
Quite odd, actually. A lot of the kids in this are like adult/kids, but they're clearly kids.
Yeah.
Like very mixed emotion characters. 1 minute they're terrified and scared, next minute they're like grown men almost, like you got to do this, you got to cluck him in the face. I'm like, what is going on? I'd be terrified if a black bloom welding John Prescott looking dude grabbed me.
Yeah, well, you would, wouldn't you? But they find this weird inner strength where they act like seasoned pros, like they've been trained how to deal with abductions and torture and stuff like that. Especially Finney, the lead lad played by Mason Thames.
Tom Hiddleston.
What?
No.
That threw me completely. But yeah, his initial shock is very minimal. And he sort of, straight away, he's like reasons with his situation, like, okay, right, I'm here, how can I get out? I would spend probably 90% of that capture screaming and shitting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be chill. I wouldn't be chill. And I'm talking now as a 30-something-year-old man. I'd be shitting and screaming. I wouldn't be like, right, what's my escape route here? What can I do? I would be
You don't have to be a kid to be scared. Look at Dharma's victims.
Exactly. Well, that's terrifying. Yeah, whoever you are, that shit's terrifying.
Crazy.
Yeah. Any more likes for The Black Phone?
I did think it at first, but then I found the ever-changing emotion in Madeleine McGraw's character, Gwen. I found that grating eventually, but I like her reaction when her dad's hitting her with the belt. I thought was extremely realistic. The way she's crying and he's telling her, "Why did the police come to my work?" Like the way she cried and stuff, almost for a moment reminded me of how amazing them kids acted in City of God. Just so realistic.
Yeah.
But then like her jump from really confident potty mouth to really innocent little Jesus lover, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You would not be this bipolar at that age.
The tonal shifts within the characters and the story for me was a real problem.
So very minute, like
a
single 22 seconds of film.
Yeah, and she traverses through her characters. 1 minute she's like this really powerful, strong, independent young kid who's had to deal with an awful lot and is doing all she can to get through a tricky period of her life, both at home and what happens with her brother. And then the next part, she's like blubbering and pleading to Jesus to help her and stuff. And it's like, well, which are you? And it changes so quickly that it aligns with the whole film for me. It's all up and down, all a bit over the place.
Well, she's a Danny Torrance in The Shining, essentially, isn't she? And Scatman's one of the coppers trying to reach her shining, so she can get away from the evil or solve the evil. Yeah, it's just a big sewing quilt of other iconic horror films.
Yeah,
the way it looks, it's cheapened as well by some of the characters. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it sounds like you struggled to find any real likes from this one. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, well, I think straight from the get-go, if you're trying to deliver a film that's about child abduction and child murders, like look at how effective, say, Sleepers was for what boys went through in abuse in boarding schools. A shocking film, great film. And then you get this film and you're about to be invested into child abduction stuff, and you get Jordan Isaiah White played him. Who's the little karate kid with the bandana?
I forget his name.
He might as well have had a pack of smokes, a pack of Johnnies and tattoos.
Yeah.
He was like a 9-year-old who was like a 28-year-old knocking the crap out of guys and busting noses and stuff. And it was like, honestly, a vending machine 80s character.
Yeah, he even says in the film, like, him and another character have a ruck and he beats this other kid. And the lead, Finney, turns around and says, oh, did you have to do that? And he said, oh, yeah, I needed to make him bleed. It was for them, like for his audience, like the people that was watching the fight. And he's like, do 10-year-olds think like this?
No, they don't.
Are you serious?
They don't.
Like, and then to have a character that strong, that bold, then becomes such a flavourless victim that's just nothing and sort of just fades off into nothingness. It's just a bit like, well, stick to a lane. Like either he's a really strong badass despite his age, or he is in fact just a fucking kid.
He is literally a kid with the skinniest arms I've ever seen. And one of the victims later on is like a 13-year-old, very feminine looking boy who's this badass guy in a slot machine place, knocking the crap out of people and walking around. He's got a perm.
It's hard to buy, isn't it? You can't think a kid who's 12 to 15 being a badass. Yeah, being a badass and carving stuff into people's arms and beating the shit out of people with such a fantastic perm.
It's like they looked at what people are getting hard on in terms of Stranger Things and stuff, and was just like, oh, we need to throw in a couple of them characters. Yeah. Oh, God.
But they were just stereotype silhouettes that done nothing for the film.
I think it's disrespectful for the subject matter. I think really disrespectful.
It's a good...
To have such hokey characters in a film that's about the torture and suffering of children. Shame on you, Blumhouse.
Yeah, I think that
Derrickson.
That is a real problem. You're not necessarily feeling connected to these poor people that are having their lives taken from them. You're not even, it sounds awful, but you're not even necessarily rooting for them because there's no one really likable. There's no one, for me anyway, that I connected with, that I thought, oh God, I hope they make it through. Like it was just, it all felt off, which is really strange considering how highly regarded this one is.
Yeah, I think its commercial success totally shrouded its critical response. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think Derrickson even mentioned how the commercial success of this project is the catalyst as to why we're looking into doing a sequel.
There's going to be a sequel.
Should that ever be the reason to do a sequel?
No, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't be, but it is.
If the story's worth expanding on, if it's left on a cliffhanger, if it's generally emotional, well, yeah, spoiler alert, he fucking dies.
Unless it's going to be Halloween all over again, 20 Halloween films, and the guy can never die.
I can see it being a prequel, and like you said at the start, maybe we will get an insight into the grabber's past and stuff, but at this point, do you care?
Prequels have to stop.
They do need to stop.
They need to stop. When you know the end result, a prequel has one hell of a job to captivate its audience again. Yeah, it's much harder to do a prequel and do it well.
But you hit the nail on the head. If it's successful in terms of making money, of course they're going to milk it. If the general audience liked what they saw and it made loads of money, which I think it did, then of course
161 million to a budget of 16.
So yeah, it smashed
huge,
it. It
huge.
smashed it. So they could make a sequel, and it will probably be worse than this one, and it will probably still make a shit ton of money because it's going to pull people in. And I thought the director Scott Derrickson, he's done some pretty solid horror films.
Sinister?
Now this is coming from someone who isn't a horror fan. And Sinister, I first saw it when I started my relationship with my fiance. And she wanted to watch this film. At the time, I was dead against watching horror films. I've sort of grown to them as I've got older. I've manned up a little bit, so to speak. And I watched it with her, and she was almost laughing at it. I didn't sleep for days.
Is that the one where the kids film themselves killing their family?
Well, it's effectively like the boogeyman. And I don't remember. I've managed to eliminate it from my brain so I can have more of a peaceful life. But there's a scene that stuck with me, and where the camera shoot goes over a swimming pool, and this figures are standing in the pool looking up.
Yeah.
That shook me to shit. And you see the other work that he's done. He's done Exorcism of Emily Rose, which I haven't seen, but I've heard is a highly regarded horror, and Doctor Strange, which I thought was an interesting chapter in the MCU.
Didn't he get dropped from doing Doctor Strange? The sequel.
Yeah, he did the first one. The second one, he left for creative reasons, and Sam Raimi took over the reins. But I look at that backlog of work, and I thought, okay, so we're in for another well-established horror director doing a film that seems to be decent. And, you know, he kind of let me down, I think.
Yeah.
What I liked about it was, in essence, I thought, an interesting concept. I like the idea of past victims helping out a child serial killer's latest abductee. I felt that the premise of vengeance from beyond the grave was a unique take in an otherwise pretty average horror flick. Now, I haven't seen a lot of horror films, so this might be a plot device that's been used many times. I don't know. But I like the idea of people that have fallen victim to this serial killer uniting and helping him from beyond the grave. Now, I like that. I thought that was a good idea. It was an interesting concept that wasn't well executed.
The Changeling with George C. Scott did this.
Did he?
In the 70s, 80s.
Okay, see, I don't know.
Yeah.
So for someone who's got a very small knowledge when it comes to this genre of cinema, I like that. But if it's been done before, then I like it.
It wasn't done through a phone. It was done through like a poltergeist and a red ball coming down the stairs and stuff. A boy was trying to tell the new resident, George C. Scott's character, that I actually think it's still a really good film, but he's essentially telling him that he was murdered in this house, and then George C. Scott goes on a mission to find him.
So it's not an original concept.
No, but then again, if you look at Sinister, that's the same. Ethan Hawke's trying to discover what happened to these people, isn't he? So he's looking into these videos, which again, kids are the actual baddies in this, and it happens through the video, doesn't it?
So yeah, I remember very little. Yeah, aren't they prompted by the boogeyman to do it, sort of thing?
Yeah, but if you watch the video,
then you do it,
and then it's like The Ring.
Okay, so Derrickson just copies from others by the sounds of things.
Well, yeah, if you look at that yellow rain mac in the rain, it's just Georgie from it, which is an iconic scene.
But I guess if you're a horror fan, maybe you applaud the homage to past horror greats. Maybe you like those little Easter eggs. For me, not so much. And it could be because I don't know too much about it. I don't,
because you've got an opportunity to just do something original, which might stand the test of time and become a cult classic. And it's just
borrowing ideas.
Yeah, it's just it's just a cowboy casserole. Just throw everything in the pot. Just throw it all in there. Is that a bit of meat? Oh, God. I
did, as a fan of Ethan Hawke, the second thing I liked about the film was the man himself. Even though he didn't have too much to do, I'm a big fan of Mr. Hawke, and it was interesting to watch him perform a more villainous role. His introduction as the Grabber was the film's strongest moment, in my opinion, and I thought he was decent as a masked menace. Now, he wasn't given a great deal of context. His character wasn't well fleshed out. But when he was on screen, when he was doing the hand signals, and when he was sitting there, like you mentioned earlier, waiting for Finney to come up the stairs, and he had his belly out, and he's sitting there with this mask on, looked quite menacing. In a physical performance, I thought he was quite good. He had his gruff voice and the way he held himself when he was meant to be a threat, a menace. I thought he did a good job with that. He just felt like he didn't have enough to do, which is bizarre when the film is focused on a child serial killer, that he had so little to do. Maybe, like you said earlier, if he had a bit more context, if we saw a bit more into his character, it would have been a better, fuller piece.
Well, incompetence reigns supreme in this film. Like, So when Finney's obviously become, he's now been abducted, he hears from how many boys? 5 boys on the phone?
Yeah, there or thereabouts. Yeah.
5 kids, right? So 5 kids have gone missing in what we could say maybe a year prior to the film starting. And not one parent, not one police officer, not one teacher is telling people you need to be careful you don't walk home on your own. None of that shit happens. There's kids going missing all in this tiny little local town. There ain't no skyline. That ain't Chicago or New York. This is just a little suburb. And there's no worry for the kids. None of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not being cruel, but these aren't prostitutes or drug addicts going missing. These are little white kids. They'd be up in arms.
Yeah, you are
They'd be going bloody crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
And Jeremy Davis, alcoholic or not, when kids are going missing, and you even see a scene where he takes a cord, you know this kid? Yeah, I go to school with him, he's my friend. And he just walks out the house.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, kids are being taken, murder killed, stab murder killed, put in holes, and you're just like, And police officers have an opportunity at the school to even tell the school, you know, guys, never walk home on your own. There's a killer out there. There's this, there's that. Nothing.
Yeah, it reeks of plot convenience, doesn't it? If the
bothers me a lot.
Yeah, I share your concerns there because
if they're not concerned, why should I be?
Well, exactly that. Yeah.
That was a proper Karen comment, wasn't it? I'm not being funny, right?
Yeah, I feel like you'll have a few more of them when we get onto your dislikes. My final like about the film was I like the sepia tone. The way the film is shot in an almost grainy, teabagged hue adds an element of nostalgia and makes the movie, it feels like a genuine product from the decade in which it's set. Now, it's a real shame that the characters aren't as relatable as the whole look of the film. If the characters were as fleshed out and, like you said, weren't
cartoony,
weren't cartoon vending machine replicas of stereotyped
80s action figures.
Yeah. If they gave that same level of concentration to the actual characters as they did with the actual look of the film, then I think we would have been onto a winner. But unfortunately, it didn't.
What tea are we talking? Thai food, Twinings, PG tips.
I'm not really.
Fat Pig?
I'm not really a tea guy, but let's go with Fat Pig because I like the idea of a film being dunked in Fat Pig tea juice. Yeah,
Ooh.
Might have improved the film.
Yeah, it would.
What didn't you like about the film? I feel like there's a fair few bits.
Character Matty, played by Jordan Asaya White. He puts the cheese in hot cheese soup and the ore in Orlando Bloom.
Please elaborate.
He just shite. I don't care if he's a kid actor, because Finney does a fine job as just acting and being believable in his role. But that action hero karate kid wielding bandana thing looks like Rambo shat out a miniature Rambo. It was just so like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why have you put it in? Why have you put him in there? It's about kids being murdered.
Yeah.
You have done nothing for your film by putting him in there.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it may have been more successful if the lead character was that tough. If Finney was the one that was kicking ass and taking names, and he got put in that environment with the grabber, you'd be like, well, you've got a fucking handful here because this kid is a fucking monster. He's a tyrant. He will kick the shit out of you. Then you would be like, oh, okay, but he's this tough guy. And then we see him being tough for what? So later on in the film that he can offer some advice. Well, you wasn't handy enough to save yourself, were you, mate? So you're not going to, what are you going to do now? What's the point of you? So yeah, I do agree.
And there is no way on God's green earth that Finney's slight figure could ever strangle out Ethan Hawke's fully grown man body just because he's in a hobbit hole and he's broke his ankle.
With a phone cord as well.
I guarantee you Ethan Hawke's neck and shoulders are stronger than Finney's arms. So he could have just leant forward and got his hands under and done him. Like, the elaborate plan to kill Ethan Hawke was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It all took a load of mistakes to get to the point where, like, if I was Ethan Hawke, even if I fell down that hole, my arms are still strong.
Well, exactly that. If he's got a telephone cable around your neck, your hands are free to just go, no, excuse me, I'm going to pull that away from my neck.
Yeah.
And in the film, he uses a fucking heavy, fridge panel or something to cave in a wall. Use that fucker to bash his head in.
Use the iron grate you took from the window to kill him, not the little phone with the dust in it.
Yeah.
Because that little kid went through a karate moment with you. Step back, jump forward, punch.
Yeah. No, I do agree, man. Yeah, it was hard to look past that. And a lot of the film, personally, it did great on me as well.
A GCSE play. Because, you know, when he picks up the phone and then the only scare they can give their audience is an apparition of the phone person phone. The way that they talk to him and then they sort of flicker and are in the background talking, right? This is a weird one. So Finney does witness a Pepsi bottle floating and being moved around by a ghost, but he can't see the ghosts at first, and then he just sees one on his back with blood coming out his mouth like that. Yeah. It's just so like, God,
it's convenient.
It's the laziest filmmaking. It's so lazy.
Yeah, man.
Surprised Ethan Hawke's proud to put his name to this.
I do agree, and I was just going into this like with every film. I wanted to enjoy it. I don't go watching a film thinking, oh, I hope this is shit. Every film I ever watch, I want to watch and be like, I hope this is good. Because, of course, I'm spending hours of my life watching it. I want to enjoy it. And seeing how well received the film was, I thought, okay, The Black Phone's going to be decent. And I was almost a little bit worried. It's like, oh, this is a highly rated horror film. It's going to fuck me up. I'm not good with horror films. So I was like, oh, fucking hell, I could be in trouble here. But it was the opposite. It was, yeah. I was not a fan.
Maybe everything's being diluted so much that by the time it does come out, this is the new standard, and this is what people are looking for from that rush life. Maybe they just go home and go, oh, it was really quick, easy, I didn't have to take anything in. Yeah, sweet.
I mean, there could be something to be said about that. We're a little bit older now, and maybe the people that are loving this are late teens, early 20s. Maybe if we watched this when we were late teens, early 20s, we might have liked it, but I knew what I was like back then, and I don't think I would have.
Even the TV movie It with Tim Curry, it does. It's even old. It's older, but I guarantee you, most people would say that's a better film. It's scarier. It builds the tension. It has a bit of context to it, and your protagonist is terrifying. You know, yeah, he's a clown, but he's also other things. In the book, he's like a tortoise and a spider as well.
Ugh.
Yeah, it gets weird, but it was so Diet Coke.
Yeah.
It was like it had to air before 4 p.m. on a Sunday because the roast was burning. It was so sorry.
Yeah, that's all right, man.
Overly negative.
Can I have some more dislikes?
I think I already covered it, but you know, how many kids have to go missing before anyone gives a fuck?
Yeah.
So I didn't give a fuck, so that was that one done. I read a bit more about Derrickson. I'll just give you a little insight into the way this man's mind works. Derrickson believes in ghosts because so many people have said they've seen them that is evidence in and of itself.
Right.
That is ridiculous. You could apply that many caveats to something like that.
Yeah.
I believe in aliens because loads of people have seen them.
Yeah.
I believe in fundamental terrorism because loads of people believe in it. What are you talking about?
I believe that all the powers to be in the world are actually body-changing lizards because loads of people believe in that.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if he conducts himself in life with just believe it because someone said they've seen it,
where does it end?
Well, it doesn't. It starts with films like this.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if
I believe in this film, done.
Yeah. If he had said, "Oh, I believe in ghosts because I've had a paranormal experience," fine. Okay, that's happened to you, or if you think that's happened to you, then okay, I understand why you would believe that. Fair enough. Through your experiences, you believe in something. But to say, "Oh, I believe in it because so many people have seen it," stop. You're being silly.
Yes.
Are we done with your dislike? Shall I go on mine?
Just like I was so bored.
Okay.
Like I wanted to be captivated just like you, but I wasn't long into it and I was bored. I was really like, this is just going nowhere. Yeah. Oh, and one plot hole that really bothered me, and some people would say it's not a plot hole. I say it is a plot hole.
This is a plot hole. Go
on. If the cameraman can see from outside the house into the basement window and see Finney in there screaming, then a dog walker whose dog runs over to have a crap on a lawn can also see Finney in a basement screaming. So him being this mastermind who gets away with 5-6 takings of children,
black out your windows.
Yeah, he has he has windows that you can easily a dog walker, a kid throwing newspapers. You know, a kid throwing a newspaper. It goes in a puddle. He gets off his bike. He goes over and as he looks up, he sees Finney in the. It was just like, what?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
You're right. It would take an inquisitive dog.
To
go and what's that over there? Oh shit! There's someone in there. Yeah.
And Finney can kill this man. By the way, as we've already discovered, he can break his neck. He can strangle him outright, but he can't run for shit, and he can't hide. Yeah. You come out of a killer's house. You don't just stay on the straight and narrow. If a sniper's gauging you, you zigzag.
Yeah.
Right. He just pulled his van in front of him like it was Home Alone 6 and went, "Get in."
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Plot hole after plot hole after plot hole.
Yeah.
Can't believe people rave about it.
Yeah, I feel you, man. And that ties into my main dislike is how overhyped it was. With an impressive score of 7 on IMDb and lots of positive response from audiences, I expected, like we said, this one to be decent. It was bang average for me, and I felt the film fell flat because of high expectations. Mm-hmm. So, like you, I was largely bored. I was waiting for it to peak and to sort of gain my interest, and like you, it never really did.
Shy. He was a really inept serial killer. Is inept the one where they're not good at it?
Yeah.
If you could say that in a sentence, he was not a good serial killer.
Yeah. Well, he was. Well, apparently he was, because he managed to get 5 kids.
Yeah,
managed to dead him up. So he was somewhat prolific. I don't know how, because in the film he's not painted as someone
because the parents, the police, and the teachers didn't care.
Yeah,
which is unrealistic.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you want a serious subject matter, you've got to treat it seriously. If you don't treat it seriously, I don't believe you. When I don't believe you, I'm looking at my phone. Yeah. I'm looking at how Brentford are doing against Brighton.
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it?
That is.
Yeah. Yeah, my second dislike is it just wasn't scary.
It weren't scary.
I scare easily, and I wasn't remotely bothered by anything that happened. The Black Phone is labelled as a horror, but I consider it to be a pretty dull attempt. And, you know, like I said earlier, it is a shame because the concept of the film initially intrigued me, but it pans out to just being so... I don't even think it's awful. Because the first time I watched it, I was engaged enough. I don't think it was a train wreck of a film. I didn't think this is unwatchable, but I would argue it's almost worse to be bang average than it is to be shit.
It is, because you go into Snakes in a Plane knowing it's a piss take joke shit movie, and you get something from it.
And there's when something is that bad, there's in some circumstances it can almost be good. If it's that bad, if it's that laughable, there's part of you that's like, oh my god, this is bad. But when it's bang average, when it's just a glass of warm milk, you're just like, oh,
you want a glass of warm milk?
Yeah.
Stab somebody.
And my final dislike, it mirrors yours entirely, and I just didn't care.
No.
In a film where the audience is supposed to care about the survival of a child that has been kidnapped by a crazed serial killer, I didn't give a shit.
I couldn't take no tips from this film on how to protect a child.
I'm glad you added that.
Yeah.
I thought the children were pretty stereotyped, their performances pretty stale, and I found myself largely uninterested in the protagonist's survival. A more considered script and more likeable characters may have helped me connect more, but to be frank, I couldn't have given less of a toss.
No.
And like you say, when the nucleus of this film is such a disturbing subject matter about young lives being taken away from their family, kids who are coming home from school getting abducted and gruesomely killed, like, you should care about that. You should be sitting there going, oh god, that's awful. Like, and even more so if you're a father and you put yourself in the position of, oh my god, imagine that, the absolute tragedy of it all. You should be sitting there watching it and going, oh, this is awful, but I didn't care.
And you don't even have to be killed for it to be a shocking story. So look at Joseph Fritzl in Austria. Look at Ariel Castro. Have you seen the film The Cleveland Abduction?
No.
With Taryn Manning. Oh man, it's such a good film. 2015, watch it. It's the true story about Ariel Castro. He this guy actually kidnapped 3 women in broad daylight, and he had them as sex slaves for like 5-6 years.
Bloody hell.
And it's a great film, and that's a true story. And one day, one of the girls got out and just escaped, and it all came out, and it's insane. But that's a real story. He didn't kill any of them. He abducted them. They were sex slaves. He raped them numerous times. It was terrifying, and it was a true story.
Yeah.
So why do I need this when real life's more believable, more scary, more realistic? The paranormal part doesn't even work, I don't think.
No.
You know, why are these kids paranormal? Like, nothing never evolves in it. We don't ever, like, it never even goes into why Ethan Hawke can hear the phone. Did he used to hear ghosts on the phone, or was he abused in that cellar? No one knows.
Yeah, and that, I think, is the core of the problem.
You don't care, I don't care, you don't care,
I don't care.
There you go.
Exactly. I've got some questions. The Black Phone pairs paranormal with a child abducting serial killer. Did the blend of genres work for you? I feel you've already answered this. Or did you feel the film would have worked better if it stuck to a singular trajectory of being either a killer thriller or a straight up paranormal horror?
I would prefer one or the other. So
I think so.
like I think Lovely Bones did a good job of being mildly paranormal in the fact that the victim dies quite early on in the film, and then she spends the film trying to lead her father towards getting vengeance on the killer. That's entirely a paranormal experience. And then you've got, films like Mindhunter and that, well, a series like Mindhunter where it's real, you're pursuing a guy who's killing the kids in the Atlanta child murder. So one or the other, the blend don't work.
No.
If anything, the blend only revealed more of the inconsistencies in the story and the inept police work and the
Yeah, I totally agree. And while I do admire the ambition, I think it's an interesting concept to weave the two. If it works, it could have been fantastic. But the fact it didn't, like you said, it's just a mess. Mm-hmm. It's just a shit heap of a film.
But I think Ghost worked, and I know it's a ghostly rom-com with Swayze and Demi Moore, but it works, man. Yeah. Ghost works. It's tragic, sad, it's upsetting, it's great. It's got a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
And that's a guy singing Henry VIII I Am to Whoopi Goldberg on a bed, and I'm more invested in it.
It sounds it. Ethan Hawke goes against the grain in The Black Phone by playing a villain.
No, we don't.
What actor who is known for being a goodie would you like to see turn bad by playing an antagonist role?
Ryan Gosling.
Has he done any villains? Drive is an anti-hero, but he's a good guy at heart, isn't he?
Oh, he's a good guy, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
I can't think off the top of my head where he plays
He's a good guy in Grey Man. I've not seen Beyond the Pine Barrens. Is he bad in that?
Oh, Place Beyond the Pines.
Place Beyond the Pines.
No, I think he's a troubled guy, but a good guy at heart. I think he's really good in that from what I remember. Mm-hmm. Ryan Gosling's a good shout.
He's just my number one heartthrob, and
I could have asked any question and you would have gone in with Gosling, yeah?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Who plays Schindler in Schindler List the Musical? Gosling.
Yeah.
Yep.
You'd watch him in anything, wouldn't you?
I would, man.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
That's charisma for me.
Yeah. And I think he would nail it. I'd love to see him in a really nasty role, like where he's just hateable.
But please, not a Bond villain. No.
Oh, I'd love to see him in a Tarantino film where he is just a nasty bastard.
Yeah.
Like, think of DiCaprio in Django Unchained or Hans Lander in Christoph Waltz's character in Inglourious Basterds. I think he would be great in that.
Wait for the cream.
Yeah. I think when I've thought of this question, my immediate response in my head was Andrew Garfield. Now, he plays like a bit of a dickhead in a film Mainstream that came out last year. But I'd like to see him because he's a lovable dude, isn't he, in pretty much everything.
Yeah, he either plays that extremely devout, religious,
dude.
Conscientious objector.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. I'd love to see him as like a really, again, like you said with Gosling, I could see him turn in a really nasty role. I'd like to see that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My final question. This film sees an abducted victim able to speak to the grabber's previous victims through a telephone. If you could speak to a true life victim of an infamous serial killer, who would you want to speak to and why?
Oh.
That is dark, isn't it?
That's a good question. I'd like to speak to, what was his name? Kenneth. He was a Myra Hindley and Brady victim. Ian Brady. Sorry, I want to look at this.
That's all right. Well, I'll give my answer.
Give your answer.
Because I recently watched the Netflix series Dharma and the documentary tapes of Dharma. I would be fascinated to talk to any one of the victims that fell to the hand of Dharma.
Well, one lived, didn't he? Yes. Got away.
Yes, but I know a lot of his victims were tempted to go back with him for money, and he was a fairly handsome dude buying him drinks, and he, from what I've heard through the documentary and the TV series, he was quite approachable, quite...
he had army body, didn't he?
Yeah, quite endearing, quite attractive dude, but I'd like to see, like... Because I feel like someone like Dharma, I think there would be a part of you be like, this guy seems a bit off. And I'd be interested to speak to him and be like, did part of you think this guy might be a bit dodgy? Because who comes up to me like, I come back to mine, I'll take photos. Like, did you have a little bit of you that was like, this sounds a bit off, or was you so desperate for the money that you were willing to ignore that part?
First thing I'd do, if I could meet one of Dharma's victims, is I'd take a little pot of horseradish, a pot of chili sauce, and I'd go, all right, yeah, you ready? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to open it. I go, can you smell them? And he goes, yeah, I can smell them. So why couldn't you smell the fucking bodies?
Yeah.
That door opens and you get whiff of 20-year-old dirty burger meat in your nos. You're out.
Yeah, and
get out of there. You can't. Who can have sex smelling that?
I don't care how drunk you are. The nostrils never lie. if you walk in and you sniff death, you're going to be like, I don't want to be here for money or otherwise.
Do you smell everything before you put it in your mouth?
Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
It's normal, isn't it?
Yes.
So, did you find who you?
My
like
one's
to
a bit
to?
more. It's a bit more sad, but it's Keith Bennett. So he was one of Myra Hindley and Ian Brady's victims, who was never found, and the mum never got to bury him. She never found his body parts, and they're still looking to this day for where Keith Bennett was buried, because I think they pretty much found every other victim apart from Keith Bennett, young lad. Very sad. Yeah, but I would love to speak to him to know where they buried him. So because then it would have brought some closure to his family that never knew.
Oh, that's nice, man. You were looking at the bigger picture of justice, whereas I'm just like, oh, tell me about it. What happened?
Oh, yeah, but then I wanted to change my answer back to and join you on that horseradish test. Like, can you smell that?
Yeah. Okay. What would you rate the Black Phone out of 10?
4.
4? I thought you'd go 4. Yeah, I think that's fair, to be honest. I went a bit higher. I went 5. Because for me, it was just absolutely bang average. There was parts of the film that I was like, oh, like I said, the concept itself I was interested in. And I was like, yeah, okay. No. And I like Ethan Hawke in whatever he does, so that boosts up my score. But yeah, I'd go straight down the middle and I'd have given it a 5. That gives the Black Phone a total score of 9 out of 20, which is slightly below average, which is probably...
That's not pudding.
About fair. It's not pudding. If you like your horror films to be not scary at all, or if you like to watch Ethan Hawke wearing creepy masks whilst a child inexplicably talks to the dead on a phone, then the Black Phone could be a film for you. Consider watching this one if you enjoyed The Sixth Sense, Sinister, and Stranger Things. Should we play a game?
Si, senor.
The game in question is What the Plot, where the rules are simple and the results quite the opposite. Harry will conceive an original idea from his big and beautiful brain and give birth to a plot. It is then down to me to nurture this thought by providing a film title, genre, cast, and anything else I can think of to raise this brainchild into a fully functioning film concept. Over to you, Harry.
Our protagonist is an artisan rug maker, an absolute artist when it comes to making rugs, and he lives in an England where homosexuality is illegal.
Oh, so is this set in the future or in the...
Anytime.
Okay.
Past, future, because it was illegal once
lives
in the UK.
So lives in England?
Yeah.
Lives in England where it's illegal to be gay.
It's illegal to be gay. He is not gay, but he is an artisan rug maker, incredible rug maker. And that's his pride, his profession, his love. Now, one evening when he's finishing up this masterpiece, his son comes into the shop covered in blood. And his son said, "Dad, I've done something. I need your help." And essentially the son was set on by a bunch of guys who found out him to be a homosexual, and they attacked him. And the son stabbed one of them, killed them. The arrest run off. And so the son says, "I need your help." And the dad goes, "Okay, let's do this." And he takes this masterpiece rug that he's just about to finish, and he drives it with his son to the body and wraps the body in this masterpiece rug, and then they hide the body. And it's all about the fallout from that. The dad trying to hide his son's crime of trying to defend himself from bigots, but he can't reveal that his son is homosexual. So it could all blow up. He could get caught. He might not get caught. The dad might take the fall for the murder. But it's the symbolism of putting like a dead body in this masterpiece artisan rug that he's created.
Okay.
That's what I got. What I got. But in terms of fate, I don't know. Does the son get caught? Does the dad take the fall?
So his son's gay and gets jumped for being gay in an England parallel universe.
Or tricked into an interaction with a gentleman and then gets attacked and set on, and he stabs him.
Okay.
Kills him to protect himself, and then the others run off and then they hide the body or something.
So it's so people are accusing this rug maker and potentially his son of doing the crime, and the story is about them trying to avoid being captured and trying to
maybe there wasn't
innocent.
more than one actually. Maybe one guy attempted to kill the son, and then the son killed him in the assault because he had to then tell his dad. Went into an alley with him to have sex with him or something, and then the guy turned on him, called him all the nastiest names under the sun, all the derogatory names. The son kills him in the tussle, and then he's terrified. I'm going to get caught. I either need to explain why I'm in an alley with this guy, or I need to hide the body. And hence his dad getting involved.
So his dad's like a real carpet connoisseur. He's like a top of his game, like
rugs.
quietly spoken.
Like them incredible like Moroccan rugs you find in souks in Marrakesh and stuff.
Okay.
Incredible. They make them for celebs all around the world. And he's an artist. He's an artisan. And it's just like a symbolism. I'm taking my art. I'm making a human burrito with my son's victim. And I've just found out in the same instance, my son has murdered someone to defend himself. And I've also found out my son is homosexual in a place where it's illegal.
Okay.
How does Daddy solve this issue?
Yeah. Okay.
A tale of love.
His is the father, is he against his son's sexuality, or is he accepting of it?
I'd say he's accepting. He's more fearful of what will happen to his son.
Okay.
Like the ramifications because of the illegalities.
So he's an advocate of being who you are. You shouldn't have to hide who you are.
Well, he's a loving dad, isn't he? So he's got to make that tough decision now about protecting his son. You know, his son was a little baby once. He loved him. He hugged him, changed his nappy and did all that. And now his son's got blood on his hands and he potentially could die or be hung for his actions, either for the murder or for revealing that he murdered him because he was being attacked in an alley. Why was he being attacked in an alley? So it's like a reveal. What do you give up? Do you be your true self and put yourself in for the crime and say, I did it. I'm homosexual. He attacked me in the street. It was a lure and he did it to beat me up, etc. Or does the dad take the fall to save his son from being...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting story. So to recap, we've got a rug maker, world-renowned.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the best to have ever done it. Best in the business.
Just amazing, yeah.
Yeah, he lives in England where it's illegal to be gay.
Well, his business is world renowned, yeah.
Yeah, so his son's gay, and he's more than happy with his son being gay in an environment where it's illegal. He's not got a problem with that.
That was a fact 65 years ago.
Yeah,
wasn't that
shocking,
long ago?
isn't it?
Yeah.
One day his son comes into the shop covered in blood. He was attacked by a homophobe or a group of We're going.
Let's say one, because if there was more than one, they'd witnessed. They could go to the police.
So he was attacked, and
See, Derrickson, that's resolving a plot hole.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And the son kills the homophobe that attacked him out of self-defense, basically.
Yeah, let's say he disarms that guy, stabs him, kills him, yeah.
So on the surface, this film is a drama. I guess it's partially a thriller when you've got someone who's attacked for just being who they are, and then out of fear of what will happen to the son if he's caught in a society that doesn't accept him for who he is. That's the story. That's the peril. His dad's got to decide whether or not to support his son and hide a dead body, which is completely against what his morality, who he is as a person. So it's him dealing with that, and then forming an allegiance and being dictated by the love of his son to sort of protect him. It's a really interesting story. I'd try and get Daniel Day-Lewis out of retirement to be in this one. You look at his turn in Phantom Thread as someone who's a master of his craft. I think he's excellent as that softly spoken expert who prides himself on quality. So he could be quite upper class, quite well spoken, but he's got that side where he's fiercely loyal to his family.
Do you think he would say? Would you think he would say, "I've done dresses, I can't do rugs"? Do you think he'd say that?
Probably, but I'm going with him.
Yeah,
he's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, it works,
and he's directing the film. Would be his partner in crime would be Paul Thomas Anderson, because they work so well together. They did Phantom Thread together.
Have I literally pitched Phantom Thread, but the only difference is that homosexuality is illegal?
No, because there's no one's murdered in Phantom Thread.
That's true.
It's just someone eats a dodgy mushroom. And I think the role of the son's quite important. So it's set in England, so I think it's important to have a British lead. That's why I've gone Daniel Day-Lewis. And his son, I'd have Will Poulter, who I think's brilliant.
Yeah, he's great.
I think he would be... He's quite a physical specimen, so you look at him. I think he could handle himself. Yeah. I think he's got a sensitive undertone to his personality and character. So I think he could play really well to be sort of this strong, independent person that falls victim to a hateful society, and he's pushed into doing something by an idiot bigot that attacks him, so he ends up killing him. So yeah, I'd have Daniel Day-Lewis as the dad, Will Poulter as the son, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and I'd call the film
Phantom Thread 2. I'm joking. Sorry.
I'd call the film Run Rugged.
Ben, is that you? I'm back here.
Dad, help me.
Ben, whose blood is that?
I was attacked. I was walking home from the line and this guy jumped out at me. He came out of nowhere, Dad. I had no choice. He attacked me.
Ben, are you hurt? Whose blood is that?
It's not mine.
From Paul Thomas Anderson, director of There Will Be Blood and Harry's favourite film, Licorice Pizza. Starring Daniel Day-Lewis, who has unretired, and Will Poulter as his son. Run Rugged. Coming soon.